This is Justinian. It's my new favorite large ship, and I'm going to show you guys why. So the deal with this ship is that it's an attack ship. I call it an attack frigate, because what it does is it attacks things. And it's really good at it because it's got a lot of cannons, and what it's made to do is to deal out a great deal of damage without really taking a lot of very important damage in the process. The whole point of this ship is that she has whole sacrificial sections that are made to be shot up. But the rest of the ship, without those sections, is still a totally viable ship. The idea is to control your enemy's turret fire by controlling what they start shooting at first, so that your opening shots will tend to count for more. And also, to get you into position to use these broadsides to really finish off your enemy. So let's do a little bit of a tour of this ship. I know ship tours are boring, but don't worry. It's not much of a tour. There's like 3 rooms in this thing. Here we go. So we come in through the cockpit, or the airlock, I'm sorry. Here we go. This is kind of a small fighter bay. The idea is you can pack some utility ships or some extra fighters, probably like 2 of them at most, into here. And it also gives you an extra buffer between the gun end of the ship and the business end, you know, the actual functional end. If you come in here, it's all airlocks, by the way. I do like preserving air. Here we go. Now we actually get to where the reactors are, and a lot of the actual machinery that runs and powers the ship. If you come in here, you're not really supposed to be able to get in here, but here we go. Here's where you've got sort of the nuts and bolts, and also the link-ups to the guns. Now you've got the reactors just behind the guns, so if the missile launchers took any really bad hits, you could actually lose your reactors. But honestly, there's sort of a risk-reward thing here. The more you try to protect a ship by putting everything behind armor, the more heavy the ship becomes and the less able it is to maneuver. And if you watched my video on fighters, you'll know I prefer maneuverability. Here we find the bridge. It's a pretty simple bridge. There's not a lot of nuts and bolts to this place, but there is something interesting here. Here's we've got a cockpit. It's fairly well protected, but you can see out through these kind of grungy windows. I kind of wish they'd fix these windows. We do have a med bay, because I don't know, you really can't have a capital ship without a med bay. And then here we have a cockpit. Now what's this cockpit doing here? What this cockpit does is it sits right out here, right over the guns. It allows you to sight in your guns. And by the guns, I mean the missile launchers. And it's got these buttons for sort of staging your missile launchers. You see what I'm doing here? I'm actually spacing them out. One of the problems with the missiles is that they can be shot out of the air, and the explosions will actually cause other missiles to go off. If one missile blows up next to another missile, you can actually lose entire huge groups of missiles. So if it just went in here, see, now if that group got shot up, the whole group would go and none of them would land on the target. We don't want that. We want missiles landing on the target and doing damage. Alright, so that's enough for the tour. Let's get into what we actually do with this ship. Over there, we have our terrible rival, Vittigese. Justinian, you see, and Vittig. Okay, if you knew some history, that'd be kind of funny. What we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to show them our port side. And we're going to show them the front end first, so that they start shooting at our front end. Here we go, we're about to get nasty. You start decelerating. I didn't actually turn on my guns. There we go. See, we show them our port side, and then we flip around. Show them our starboard side. Our starboard side here is quite fresh, and now we're actually in a pretty good position to use our broadsides. Whoop. Okay. You just got to get in there. You want to have a buddy probably actually using broadside end. Whoa, there we go. Now, we can start landing some missile hits on that thing. And this will end that ship. I'm not showing this very well. There we go. I don't actually know what I'm hitting. The clouds and so forth are actually making it pretty hard for me to see what kind of damage I'm actually doing. But I've got a pretty good idea that I'm doing something really catastrophic to that thing. Especially since, shoot, I don't know if it's even shooting back at this point. Oh, okay, yeah, no, it's still shooting back. Let's get in close. Now, another thing that you can do with this ship, since that front end of the ship is actually pretty inexpensive to build, you don't really care about it that much. If we absolutely had to, we could go for a total ramming tactic. We could actually just slam this ship's front end into the enemy ship and thereby completely disable it. Let's see if we can kind of get into position to do that here. Alright, we gotta bring our engines to bear so that we slow down. There we go. And let's do it. Let's ram him. Ramming speed! If we can manage it. Here we go. Oh! See, now we can do an absolutely catastrophic amount of damage to the enemy without necessarily losing anything important ourselves. That whole front end is cheap. It's just a bunch of iron and some guns. Iron and guns. Cheap. Easy to replace. But now, just like that, we've taken the enemy ship from a viable fighting ship down to nothing. That was all it took. Look at that. Look at all those cheap parts. Easy to replace. Look, so we've got some damaged guns. Fine. But this ship is totally fine. It just bore the full brunt of all the guns of that ship. Well, okay, not all of them. We did kind of go around to the back end of it. But look at that. You see what we're talking about here? We're talking about a ship that's designed to lose sacrificial parts. And for the important parts, the actual functional parts of the ship, to remain intact, despite the combat that we just went through. That's Justinian, and that's why I love this ship. I think I've actually got a decent, practical design. Something that you might actually, I would build this in survival mode. I would go through all the resources and so forth to build this thing, because honestly, it's not terribly expensive to build. And if I've got a chance to do it, now I've got a capital ship that's capable of taking on much larger enemy ships. So, that's my argument for why this ship works. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to record some more videos in the future of me duking it out with some other capital ships. So that's to come. Meanwhile, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Check out my workshop link in the description. And let me know what you think about these tactics. Let me know if you've got something better that you would try out, or if you've got some idea that maybe you've got a magic ticket to defeating this ship for all of her maneuverability and for all of her deadliness. Maybe you've got a better idea. I'd like to hear it. All right, Meister Keen out.